security perspective, this proposal is an absolute failure.
Judge Amy Berman Jackson says there is sufficient evidence to say that Manafort broke his plea deal with Robert Mueller by lying, but the ruling certainly hurts Paul Manafort's odds of getting a reduced sentence.
New numbers. 57% of voters have a positive opinion of capitalism. That is more than twice the number who feel the same way about socialism.
Only capitalism has lifted billions of people from poverty.
To all of law enforcement, we will never forget your service, and we will never, ever let you down.
Melania Trump will spend Valentine's Day warming hearts at a children's hospital, making cards and decorating cookies with many of the kids.
What is Galentine's Day?
Where your gals celebrate. Or your guys. I guess you could call it Galentine's.
You don't have to have somebody of the opposite sex in
you celebrate your friends.
There you go. Two holidays are picking up steam in America, Halloween and Valentine's Day. I feel as though Valentine's Day was not a big deal, and I think every year it gets bigger and bigger.
Valentine's Day I think has been pretty big at our house for a long time.
Really?
And you don't think Halloween was always big.
Really? I think
you don't like Halloween.
The reason we all know Brian hates Halloween. Hadn't dressed up since he was 4.
Yeah, last time I had a costume on, it was controversial. Now it's controversial. I was Christopher Columbus. Now all of a sudden people be protesting me in 3rd grade.
I was Columbus in 2nd grade.
You get out of here.
Yeah,
Were you really?
They were out of Ponce de Leon.
Y'all are some wild and crazy Halloween dressers.
No, I know. It was, and I was wearing tights. That's a long story. No pictures exist.
Tough getting
You're learning more and more about these guys.
Because it is Valentine's Day, we've got two of our favorite chains in the entire world are going to be here. We got Chick-fil-A. They've got something special for Valentine's Day. And we've got Dunkin' Donuts, and they're bringing along some basketball
and
cakes.
We have a wedding. Someone's getting married on our show.
Right, for a very good reason. A chain, a bridal chain down in the Philly area, went bankrupt. And so they had hundreds of dresses. Eventually, they went to the county. They've been in cold storage, and they opened it up. Hundreds of brides have decided, you know what, we would love one of those free dresses. They've stipulated the dresses have got to go to military families. And today, we've got just that on tap for us.
And of course, we have a history with wedding dresses because we helped Geraldo almost win The Apprentice by buying wedding dresses at a wedding dress store.
We did.
And who was the host of The Apprentice? The President of the United States.
There you go.
I remember that. That was before I was anchoring with y'all, and y'all were on there donating money.
Yeah, on a Saturday.
The president no longer an apprentice. He's actually the POTUS. And we got him in our lead story. It's a Fox News alert on this Valentine's Day. The text of the bipartisan border security bill has been released, and man, it is a mile long.
Yes, over 1,000 pages. The big question now, will the president sign it if it passes the House and Senate?
That's the big question. Griff Jenkins is live in Washington, where lawmakers have a lot of reading to do. Griff, shutdown could be tomorrow. Do they have time to read all this?
Well, I'm not sure about that. Happy Valentine's Day to you. You know, the president said he wanted to see the final product. Well, here you go. This is the final product. 1,159 pages of light reading. The president says he doesn't want to shut the government down, but he's approaching this with caution.
We'll be looking for landmines, because you could have that. You know, it's been known to happen before to people.
So what's in this? Let's take a look. $2.37 billion total in border security funding, of which $1.375 billion for, quote, fencing in the RGV sector, $725 million for technology, $270 million for facility improvements. But remember, it does have a path to reduction in ICE detention beds. But that's not all that we see here. Some highlights, as noted in a press release put out by one of the architects of the bill, Democratic Congresswoman Nita Lowey, who's the chairwoman of the House Appropriations Committee, says it also has a 1.9% pay raise to federal civilian workers, which she notes, quote, overrides the president's decision to deny them. It has $3.8 billion invested in the census, which is a $1 billion increase, she notes, to, quote, combat the administration's assault on the census, and it has $9.3 billion in EPA and Land and Water Conservation Fund. Meanwhile, Democrats are encouraging him to sign off, both Schumer and Pelosi, saying you can't always get what you want, get on board. Actually, lawmakers on both sides appear confident that it probably will pass, with some rejections. The voting is going to start, guys, in the Senate, actually, because of a funeral, and it will finish in the House likely tonight to pave way for his signature of this, the 1,159 pages.
Right. Are you going to refill the paper for Bret Baier? Because when he comes in, he hates doing that.
How many times did you have to refill to print that out?
That's about
twice,
3 reams.
At least twice. Yeah, it's 3 reams.
Several
Whatever
reams,
was in there first time.
Well, President says he's going to read
Thank
through that whole thing to make sure there aren't any landmines.
I doubt that the president's actually going to wind up reading
His
that.
staff.
I doubt that anybody.
Mick Mulvaney will read it.
Well, I don't know.
Nancy Pelosi, after it passes.
You have to pass it before you can read what's in it. It sounds like there are a number of liberals who are going to vote no because there's money for a border barrier in there, and they hate that idea. The president, we have heard, this is not the deal he wanted. It sounds like he's going to go for some plan B. Could be an executive action, could be declaring a national emergency. Lindsey Graham said yesterday, let the president declare it a national emergency and then let the Democrats argue that it's not one. That would be a good argument to hear.
Well, Mark Morgan, we've had him on a bunch. He was the former Border Patrol chief under President Obama. He says this new border security proposal is an absolute failure.
From a border security perspective, this proposal is an absolute failure. They not only didn't listen to the experts on the tools and resources they needed, they have absolutely rejected that. And one thing I want to add that's very important American people need to understand, what they're doing with ICE beds. So think about this. This proposal reduces the ICE beds, and I'm not a mathematician, but reduces the ICE beds. As you just pointed out, illegal immigration is skyrocketing. Again, you don't have to be a mathematician. What does that mean? Catch and release 2.0. They're going to have to release them.
We'll see, because there is a formula in there that says they will be able to increase and be able to add to what they have already. I know Tom Homan also feels, what Mark Morgan feels, that this is a bad deal and we shouldn't sign it. However, the president's build 6 miles of wall has already just gone up. He's going to get 44 from 2017. He's got 55 here, and the sense is he will sign this bill tonight and then go over here with some type of reprogramming of money to add to it right away, causing a little bit of controversy. In the meantime, while the controversy happens through the courts or wherever, the president could still build the 55 miles that's in there. So it's enough that, and no one really feels like they own the bill. You ask Nancy Pelosi, it's not her bill. You ask Lowy, it's not her bill. You ask the president, it's certainly not his bill. So it's somewhat of a compromise, and I think that Rush Limbaugh said it best yesterday. Mr. President, sign this, go back and get more. It shows you're continuing on what you promised.
All right, well, we've heard about what the lawmakers want, what the president wants, but they're in office because of you. So we wanted to know what the people think. Fox News did a poll, and 66% of the majority of voters favored a deal including a border barrier, non-barrier security measures, and humanitarian aid for the detainees.
You know what? When you look at that favor, 66%, that is a supermajority in Congress. So a supermajority of Americans are actually for what the president has run on, and that's good for him going forward. Not good for people who are saying, look, we don't need a border barrier, we don't need that stuff. But that is one of the tenets of the president's original appeal from a couple of years ago. Now what the president's been talking a lot about, whether it was at the State of the Union or at his rally in El Paso, he's been talking about how this nation will never be a nation of socialism. Fox News also asked folks about socialism, and capitalism creams it.
Yeah, 57% support capitalism versus socialism, only 25%.
Right. It seems like the next generation seems like the concept, but maybe doesn't understand what socialism is. Perhaps. But you have a lot of this theme among freshmen, certain freshmen on the Democratic side who seem to be against what's happening in America. In our past foreign policy, if you saw what happened to Elliott Abrams on Capitol Hill, and of course what you've seen with the rollout of the new the Green Deal. Dennis Prager is a big picture and a big thinker. He looks at what America's been and what it's not, and he says we have to understand how great, if imperfect, capitalism is.
The problem is this. It's to me, everything ultimately is a moral question, not a political one. I ask only one thing. What has lifted humanity out of poverty? There is only one answer to that question, and that answer is capitalism. So you cannot love humanity and love socialism. It is not possible. They are mutually exclusive. Only capitalism has lifted billions of people from poverty. These people are fools who are floating the idea of socialism. It means contempt for humanity and love of ideas.
If you want an example, look at the mess which is Venezuela right now, one of the hotspots and ugliest places in the world, because they flipped their government, which was not the purest form of capitalism, but this pure form of socialism has destroyed that nation.
Intentionally lied to special counsel Robert Mueller and made false statements to the FBI and a grand jury. The decision likely means Manafort will be up for a harsher sentence at his hearing next month. Manafort's lawyers say he did not lie. California Governor Gavin Newsom firing back at President Trump over returning federal funding for the scrapped bullet train plan. Newsom tweeted, quote, "This is California's money allocated by Congress for the project. We're not giving it back. The train is leaving the station. Better get on board." Also desperately searching for some wall money. His response after President Trump tweeted California owes, quote, the federal government $3.5 billion. So see what happens there. Melania Trump will spend Valentine's Day warming hearts at a children's hospital. The First Lady will participate in activities with young patients from the Children's Inn at the National Institute of Health in Maryland. She visited the same hospital last Valentine's Day to make cards, decorate cookies, and of course, spend time with the kids. Help make their day special.
No kidding. And everybody gets to make the cookies, and everybody gets a Valentine's from
and
the First Lady.
And hopefully gets to eat the cookies.
Well, you gotta hope. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jillian.
Priorities.
President Trump praising our law enforcement during a sheriff's conference in Washington.
I've come to deliver a very important message from the American people to you. Thank you.
Sheriff Grady Judd was there and got a special shout out, and he is live to tell us about it next.
And one officer lending a helping hand to a little boy in the pouring rain. The sweet photo's gone viral this morning. We'll give you details. You're watching Fox and Friends, Valentine's Day 2019.
Nike's gonna like
law enforcement. We will not tolerate smears or slanders or assaults on those who wear the badge. I've come to deliver a very important message from the American people to you. Thank you.
You got the president hailing our nation's law enforcement while doubling down on his promise to build the wall and protect the American people. Our next guest was at the conference and actually got a shout out from the president at one point. Here with more is Sheriff Grady Judd of Polk County, Florida. He is also the president of the Major County Sheriff's Association. Sheriff, thank you very much for joining us live.
It's my honor to be with you this morning. How are you?
I'm doing okay. So what was the president's message to you all yesterday?
The president's message was one of unity and support. Do you know law enforcement across this nation have been under attack? And the president of the United States has stood up the last 3 years when we were in D.C. for these conferences and said, I support you, I've got your back. And he makes it abundantly clear. He sends the same message over and over that he helps us so we can keep the community safe. And that's what it's all about. We're here to make sure we have a safe democracy, a safe community. And the president saying that over and over is remarkably important to us and to the communities we serve.
Surely. Of course, we've seen some frustration from the president. He's trying to get more wall money from Congress. It doesn't look like he's going to get everything he wants, but nonetheless, he has made that a central point of his campaign and his presidency as well. He's trying to give the men and women of ICE and Border Patrol more money for them to fight the trouble that faces the country.
Well, what's important about this is he's not building this wall or this barrier or whatever the political term is for himself. This is all about keeping the people of the United States safe. I could stand here for the next 5 hours and give you example after example of illegal aliens in this country preying on everyone from our very youngest children, where they've raped them, to murders. So when the president fights like this, understand he's fighting for all of us. He wants a safe and a secure community, and it starts with getting the illegal aliens out of this country and not allowing them back in.
Well, unfortunately for him, he would like to get more money for more wall, but that's not going to happen. It sounds like he's going to sign that bill today. It only gives him a fraction of the mileage, but it's better than nothing. Sheriff, thank you very much for joining us today. And as the president said yesterday to everybody in attendance, thank you for your service.
Thank you very much. And if those that vote today had to work a shift on the border last night, it would be a lot different.
You are absolutely right about that. All right. Sheriff Grady Judd, thank you, sir.
Take care.
All right. Meanwhile, straight ahead, more than 8 years after his murder, there is justice for Border Patrol agent Brian Terry, the man who shot him, now convicted of killing him. Brian's brother calls it a bittersweet victory. He will join us live coming up next.
Before discovering next
operation.
On Tuesday, the man responsible for pulling that trigger was convicted of first-degree murder and other charges. Here to react is his brother, Kent Terry. Kent, good to see you again. Your reaction to at least somebody getting charged for this?
Well, you know, it was an emotional week for us. But you know what? When the verdict was read that he was, you know, found guilty, it was some little bit of emotional closure for us. But we're heading in the right direction, trying to get closure. So.
Ken, it's sad because we have a list of 17 other Border Patrol agents that have been killed since your brother's death. Those folks we're remembering this morning, too. It's just so tragic. What do you say to the Border Patrol agents that are out there risking their lives every single day to protect our country?
You know, I can't say enough. I mean, these guys they're dedicated 150%. They put their families second to protect this soil here, and they need to be recognized a lot more than what they are. So,
Ken, the other thing is, other people here are up on charges for the death of your brother as part of an elite Border Patrol unit. The other thing is, you want to find out more information on Fast and Furious and the other circumstances to your brother getting shot and killed.
Yeah, you know, my family does, because you got to stop and think these guys were armed by our ATF agency and people in Washington. And I heard some stuff in the trial that these guys traveled 500 miles with weapons from Sinaloa back here to commit crimes. I mean, that's pretty disturbing. I mean, and that's just what we know about Brian's death. Can you imagine how often that goes on?
How do you wrap your head around that? Because if the weapons weren't ever out there, you would have your brother today, probably.
Exactly. If ATF never would have put them weapons out there, I wouldn't have been at trial. I would have been having a beer on my brother's patio, enjoying his time, you know, and talking to him. That trial should have never happened on both parts, Heraclio's and ours. And it's sad that it's going on 9 years now, and my family still hasn't got any closure.
Well, I mean, someone knows. Someone knows who was behind Fast and Furious. Someone should be held accountable. Will we put guns into the hands of would-be known drug cartel members in order to track them and find out about their movements? So no one's even been charged with this. It seems like Eric Holder's stiff-armed the whole investigation.
Exactly. Not even nobody in the ATF's been held accountable. Not even a slap on the hand. I mean, these guys are still carrying a badge and a gun, making decisions. They were involved in this reckless scandal. And and that's why I call on President Trump to meet with my family, tell my family either he's going to help us or he's not. I mean, it's going on long enough. My family needs closure.
And in order to get that closure, you want to see all the documents?
Yes, all the documents, and who's responsible and why nobody's been held accountable. It's getting ridiculous now. So.
On another note, Kent, as we debate the use of a border wall and border barrier, where do you stand on that?
I'm all for the wall. I know we can't do it 100% across the border because of mountain terrains and stuff like that. I understand that, but at least can funnel it down to where we can put more boots and more resources in those sections where we can't put a wall. But I talk to these guys, I mean, they want to go home at night. And I mean, it's a war down there that a lot of people don't see and recognize unless they're impacted by it.
And you are, and so is your family even to this day. All right, so we'll see what happens with the others that are put up on charges, but at least you have one conviction, and we'll continue to keep the dialogue open with you and your family.
And he'll be sentenced on April 29th.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Kent. We hope your family gets that closure that you're seeking so badly.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, 28 minutes after the top of the hour. This video is crazy. A woman throws a chair from a high rise into rush hour traffic, and now police want her to take a seat behind bars.
Of course. Plus, Senator Bob Menendez seeing red after being asked about the Green New Deal. Listen to this.
I'm wondering why you won't answer questions on the new Green Deal.
I won't answer questions for daily caller, period. You're trash.
Why do you think we're trash, sir?
Don't keep harassing me. I'll bring you to the Capitol.
And he was so indignant there, and it's curious because it's not Trump's money the way he makes it sound. It's our money.
Yeah.
And it's $3 billion that California wasted of our money, and he just doesn't want to give it back.
Well, and if $3.5 billion was allocated to that and it's not going to happen, then yeah, I mean, you can't just keep the money and do something else with it.
Must be nice to be a politician, huh? All right, 27 minutes after the hour, double trouble for Delta Airlines. Turbulence, violent turbulence, rocking one flight in midair, and flames and smoke filling another.
Yikes.
And then you can see the people who aren't belted in. They're hitting the ceiling.
How the airline is responding this morning.
And can El Chapo's multi-billion-dollar drug fortune really pay for the border wall? A former Texas prosecutor joins us live to break down how he thinks it can be done. Hope you're having a good morning so far. Welcome back. A look at our top headlines that we're following this morning. First, the text of the bipartisan border security bill has been released. As expected, it includes about $1.3 billion in wall funding and about $1 billion for technology and facility upgrades. A final vote is expected on Capitol Hill today, but the president says he'll need to review it for, quote, landmines before signing it.
Next, Paul Manafort's plea deal is now void. A federal judge ruling the former Trump campaign manager intentionally lied to special counsel Bob Mueller and made false statements to the FBI and a grand jury. The decision likely means Manafort will be up for a harsher sentence at his hearing next month. Manafort's attorneys say he did not lie.
And finally, a House panel advancing its most significant gun control bill in years. The measure would require background checks for all gun sales and most transfers in the U.S. The House Judiciary Committee debated the bill for 9 hours before voting on it. It is expected to be voted on by the full House within the next few weeks.
The FBI asking for help identifying the women in these chilling sketches. Samuel Little drew these sketches in his jail cell. He says he killed all of these women. Little is serving a life sentence in Texas after being convicted of 3 murders. He says he has killed 90 women across the United States over the past 4 decades. If confirmed, Little would be one of the deadliest killers in U.S. history.
That'll give you chills. ICE files a detainer on the illegal immigrant accused of killing his ex-girlfriend, stuffing her body in a suitcase and dumping it in the woods. Officials say Javier da Silva is from Portugal and his visa expired in 2017. Da Silva admits to dumping Valerie Reyes' body in Connecticut, but insists she died from a head injury. If convicted in her killing, he could face the death penalty.
All right, the students at the center of this viral confrontation in Washington, D.C. have been cleared of any wrongdoing.
An independent investigation found no racist or offensive statements were made by the Covington Catholic students. As you know, they were widely criticized after coming face to face with a Native American activist at March for Life rally last month. The agency concluding saying, quote, the statements we obtained from students and chaperones are remarkably consistent, and the statements are consistent with the videos we reviewed. And there was a lot of video out there.
Yeah. And now here come the defamation lawsuits. Keep you posted on that. Senator Ted Cruz doubling down on his calls to have convicted cartel kingpin El Chapo pay for the border wall.
The Department of Justice estimates of the global worth of El Chapo's criminal network worldwide were roughly $14 billion. And that means we could do this without spending even a penny of taxpayer money. Those billions that El Chapo has were made trafficking illegally across the U.S. border. And it is only right that those ill-gotten gains go to fixing the problems and stopping the next narco trafficker.
Well, So based on the argument, is this a legal possibility, and how exactly would it work? We are asking Texas County Attorney Rob Hennicky. Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. In that interview last night, Senator Cruz went on to say, look, I don't know if this is something that's going to happen, but he thinks it's a good idea. What do you think? Is it possible?
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me on Fox and Friends First. It is possible. It happens all the time. In fact, President Trump has already called this an interesting idea in describing Senator Cruz's El Chapo Act, where you seize the $14 billion in proceeds from his drug cartel and you use it to pay for border security. Criminal asset forfeiture is used by the Department of Justice all the time. They take the proceeds, they put them in a fund with wide latitude to use that, albeit not in this scale, but it's a practice that's commonly done and is perfectly lawful.
Okay, so it's possible. I think that's what a lot of people were curious about. I have another question, though. I mean, I would assume that Mexico probably wants this money as well. Right. He was a terror in that country. He killed so many people. Would they have a say in this?
Well, they wouldn't, because the action is done by the Department of Justice here, connected to the criminal prosecution and the conviction of the drug kingpin. And look, this elegant, out-of-the-box proposal by Senator Cruz is not just El Chapo, but also future convictions from other drug cartel members to help fund border security and to build the wall.
So
it's our money.
Break this down. How would this happen? How long would this take? Is this something that, we would see in the near future?
Well, the elegance of the bill from Senator Cruz, it's only a 3-page bill. It's a very simple proposal that would designate these funds in the account to be used for this purpose. The power, though, already exists with the Department of Justice once they seize these funds to be able to put them to law enforcement type purposes. So really the length of time is going to be how complicated it is to unpack the criminal empire of El Chapo and to find his assets and to seize them. But once they're seized and captured and put in the asset forfeiture fund, then they can be directed by the Department of Justice and put to a just use, keeping in mind that these funds have come from decades of terror on the American public from the drug empire.
Yeah, that's find and seize. That's
right.
Part of the
Yeah. I still think it's fascinating that you say that Mexico wouldn't have any say in this, considering those assets are in their country. But we shall see. All right. Rob Hennicky, thank you so much for your time this morning. We do appreciate it.
Thank you. Great to be with you.
All right.
It is 36 minutes after the hour. Critics are calling out President Trump for installing a golf simulator at the White House.
What they didn't tell you, though, is that there was already one there under President Obama. Of course, nobody talked about it back then. Carly Shimkus joins us with the social media reaction coming up next.
People rushed to the hospital after severe turbulence. The Delta flight from California making an emergency landing in Nevada.
I actually flew in my seat and hit the top.
One lady was in the bathroom with her kid. She came out all bloody. It was like a movie.
The turbulence tipping over a drink cart and causing a huge mess in the cabin. The airline has apologized. Another Delta flight forced to evacuate for a fire in an overhead bin. A battery overheating on the tarmac in New York City. A flight attendant put the fire out.
Rough day.
Yeah.
The Pentagon calling for an investigation as military families reveal major problems with privatized housing.
I have felt the helplessness of a fellow Marine Corps spouse as she held her new baby and sobbed while we stood under a collapsing, moldy ceiling in her home at Camp Lejeune.
Absolutely unacceptable. Military families have reported rats, toxic mold, and lead in their homes. Some think those conditions have led to disease and even birth defects in their kids. In a statement, the Army says, quote, "It is unacceptable for our families who sacrifice so much to have to endure these hardships in their own homes."
Terrible.
All right, Minnesota Congresswoman freshman Ilhan Omar refusing to answer a reporter's questions about her tweet slamming the president.
This morning you said the president trafficked.
What is wrong with you?
Question about your tweet. You had a tweet saying the president trafficked in hate.
Yes, I tweeted. There's a response. You can run that and have a nice day.
Wow. Okay. Carly Shimkus of Fox News Headlines 24/7 Sirius XM 115 here with more on the
viral confrontation. I mean, a reporter's job is to ask questions.
Yeah, and man, oh man, is she giving Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez a run for her money in terms of media coverage?
These freshmen do not like all the attention from the media. They want to be left alone.
Yeah. Well, she is facing a lot of criticism, especially from journalists, for that exchange with CNN's Manu Raju. S.E. Cupp, CNN host, tweets, "You're a public servant now. That's a journalist just doing his job. There's nothing wrong with him," kind of like what you were saying, Jillian. Politico's John Bresnahan saying, "If you don't want to face questions from reporters, don't run for Congress." And then Twitter user Brenda also chimes in saying, "Rookie mistake on her part. She'll figure it out." She also got into that testy exchange with Special Envoy to Venezuela, Elliot Abrams, yesterday, and she started off that conversation by calling him Mr. Adams.
Yeah. And she actually, I mean, there were some fair points made there, but it wasn't very polite, I guess you might say, in that House hearing. All right, I actually saw something about this a couple weeks ago, and it's been turned into something more. If you haven't seen the Fyre Fest documentary about that whole disaster, this is interesting.
Well, so Hulu and Netflix, they both released documentaries about this infamous Fyre Festival. It was supposed to be this idyllic experience, turned out to be a total disaster. And now North Carolina Congressman Mark Walker has tweeted a video that compares it to the Green New Deal. Watch.
All these things that may seem big and impossible are not. It gives people that type of energy, that type of power.
If you saw the documentary, you realize that it's really all about the fact that they created this hype video around the Fyre Festival, and that would, I guess, be the hype video for the Green New Deal. Kill off all the cows. David says, actually, Fyre had a much better chance of success. Another Twitter user says, spot on. I ask, what if the cows are willing to work? Uh-oh. We'll have to wait and see about that.
No
so
planes,
I guess
no emissions,
the point there sounds good on paper. I don't know how practical it is, though.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So a room-sized golf simulator sounds like my dream come true.
Yeah, it really does. You're going to have to visit the White House, Jillian. So President Trump just installed a new golf simulator in the White House. Sounds pretty bad considering it's coming on the heels of the report about all the executive time that he's taking. The body of that Washington Post report, you learn that he's just replaced the one that was put in place by President Obama, and he also paid for it, $50,000 of his own money. So not as bad as one may think, although I do think it's funny how President Trump, President Obama, they golfed a whole lot, and even when they aren't on the golf course, they got to golf at the White House. I guess it is your dream come true,
It
right?
is my dream come true. Sometimes, just taking a few swings out there can relieve a little stress.
Yeah, it can relieve a little stress.
Reminds me of the UN curtain thing, though, with Nikki Haley. They gave her all that flack, and Obama actually bought those.
It's exactly the same thing
very
there.
Similar. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Carly.
Thank you,
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
It is just about 45 minutes after the hour. Happy Valentine's Day. In case you forgot to get your special someone a gift, we have last-minute deals that won't break the bank and help you stay out of trouble if you forgot that gift.
Why are you looking at me? Hey, let's check in with Steve Doocy, see what's coming up on Fox and Friends. I know Steve got a gift for the wife.
Yep.
Yes.
Hey.
Oh, no. Come on.
It's okay. Pep Boys is open on the way home. We're going to talk about about how much we have to give thanks to our loved ones today with Valentine's Day. We've got a special surprise. We're going to talk about the news of the day. It sounds like Congress is about to vote on that budget border deal. We're going to talk to Congressman Devin Nunes about that. Also, former Kansas Secretary of State Chris Kobach. Nobody has known more about immigration in this country than he. Judge Ana Napolitano, Dana Lash, and Tim Tebow has got a new documentary. Plus, this is the part we're so excited about. We are throwing a wedding live on Fox and Friends today. There's the couple. A former Air Force medic of 8 years is saying "I do" to her police officer fiance. We've got them here. Everybody's going to be dressed up. We got the cake. We got the flowers. We're going to send them on a dream honeymoon. It's all going to happen on Fox and Friends toward the end of our 3-hour telecast.
He's like amazed. He's like, oh my gosh.
Wow.
It's going to be great.
Again, Steve, I want to hear that.
I do. All right. Coming up.
All right.
Multi-purposeful flowers.
Yeah, the wedding will be cool. Thank you, Steve. Okay, welcome back. Another 2020 presidential hopeful under fire yet again over claims of staff mistreatment. Minnesota Democrat Amy Klobuchar accused of office outbursts, even throwing objects. This according to a new Yahoo News story which interviewed former staffers. Klobuchar, the moderate Democrat, has admitted to being a tough boss and says she has high expectations. If you want to do business with the city of Los Angeles, you're going to have to reveal any ties with the NRA. The LA City Council unanimously passing a new ordinance requiring contractors to disclose connections to the organization. The National Rifle Association has reportedly threatened to sue over this ordinance, claiming contractors that it can cause them